All right.
Yeah. All right, we're here with Clark Brooks, one of my absolute favorite accounts to follow, SEC StatCat on 3 Sports. And as he joked, he came over here and said, by God, you've had everybody from on 3 but me, so get me on here.
Best for last.
What do I have to do to get on here? I mean, I thought I have some decent takes. I know my stuff
He
a little
literally
bit.
left the first message, too. You know,
Yeah.
like
First one here, Monday morning, left them a nice little napkin of a note.
So let's talk Kentucky. You said
Yeah.
Kentucky's going to whoop Tennessee's ass.
Oh,
Cats by
man.
5, my friend. It's going to be because of the quarterback. I mean, everyone is excited about Devin Leary in the Bluegrass, and the term I like to describe him, snappy accuracy. Sure, he did lean on RPO, short stuff when he was at NC State, but still, when you look at a down-to-down basis, being on target, and what I mean by on target, the receiver's not having to do an unnecessary adjustment to make the catch. He's not having to slow down. He's not having to dive or have any altering, just pure in stride type of rhythm on a per throw basis. He projects to be the SEC's most accurate guy right now.
So he's the opposite of Will Levis. Is that what you're telling me?
Well, hey, let's remember in the marginal aspects, there was a reason why Will Levis was talked up as a first round talent besides his traits.
Yeah.
Number 1 accuracy deep in the SEC. Number 1 accuracy under pressure in the SEC. Number 1 accuracy on contested tight windows in the SEC. Most experience running under center stuff. So there was stuff there. But yeah, of course, when Will Levis was just asked to operate within structure, his adjusted net passing yards per attempt was the worst in the conference.
Yeah.
That's never
Yeah.
a good look if you're trying to play at the next level. It's just not. But for Leary, of course, he can just come in and be that distributor. Of course, last time Leon Combe was in Lexington, I'd like to remind you, Kentucky led the conference in offensive success rate. They were the only team above 50%. I think actually Mississippi State was actually with them, but they were one of the 2 conference offenses that year to crack the 50% threshold, which of course is where the elite offenses like to go. So
And that was Levis year 1, right?
correct,
Yeah,
2021. Yes. So with that pairing together, I think it's absolutely going to help them, considering the fact Kentucky arguably has its best receiving room it's ever had. And I'm not a hyperbolic person, so that should carry some weight, what I just said.
Wasn't it funny, though, that you say that, and you're not the only one. Many people believe it, but they're not even in consideration for the SEC's best receiving core by the masses. I'm not saying they're not the best, but I'm saying I don't even hear that. I hear A&M, I hear LSU, Georgia, Alabama. They just completely overlook Kentucky.
Yeah, I mean, hey, there's good reasons to overlook. I mean, some of these rooms are stacked, my friend. LSU in particular, I'm really excited about them. A&M's 3 main pass catchers with Moose Muhammad back, Evan Stewart, who just looked like an absolute star budding this spring, and then when you bring in Anaya Smith, the jack of all trades, the guy you can have in the backfield in the slot out wide where you can just really find your stress points for the defense, it's really going to help those quarterbacks. Look, I'm not the biggest Connor Wegman proponent. Yeah, he's a freshman All-American. Who cares? He threw 0 picks. Who cares? He still had a below-average interceptable pass rate. He was still throwing the ball in the harm's way. Just because he didn't log an interception doesn't mean he wasn't reckless. He clearly was. And when you're looking at his pass chart, he had one of the lowest percentage of passes that went outside the numbers. So everything's towards the middle of the field. That tells me noodle arm. And, of course, I didn't get a chance to ask Jimbo this yesterday, but last time I checked, which was yesterday, only 2 conference offenses have failed to have more explosive plays than Texas A&M over the last 3 years, Kentucky and Vanderbilt. That's not the company you want to keep in this conference.
He got mad as hell. I had Wigman over Joe Milton. I'm sure you did. He was so many
That was
beers
insane.
deep, he didn't even know what was going on.
No.
But why did that make you so mad?
Well, just because of the abilities. I mean, I don't want to call Wegman a total noodle arm because he's still young, he's still developing, but based on what he was as a freshman, you cannot deny the immense upside Milton has over him in terms of just traits, in terms of operation, of course. The fear and shoot, the super spread, whatever you want to call Tennessee's offense, it's inherently aggressive, it's inherently vertical, and it leads itself into having more explosives. And last time that I checked, which was yesterday, the explosive play battle is more correlated to victories in this conference the last half decade than time of possession, winning the middle 8, and winning the turnover battle. So it's immensely important to consistently get explosive games, and that just hasn't been their offense. And again, you kind of have to lean into that because, yes, you can have yak stuff, you can have good receivers, but the easiest way to get an explosive pass is throw downfield, throw deep. Well, 2 of the last 3 years, they've had a bottom 5 deep pass rate within the conference. They're not even giving themselves a chance to log these explosives. They're putting way too much weight on their receivers and their running backs coming out of the backfield to get those yak-oriented explosives.
Yeah. Well, let me go. If we're at the end of this season, we're looking about, I mean, obviously you're a numbers man. I'm going to need a little more caffeine for this interview, I can already tell. But if you were at the end of the season and you are ranking what you think the top 5 quarterbacks will be in the SEC, who do you have in that list?
Our ballot's going to come out later. I'm going to keep them a little quiet, but I'll share with you all. Milton, he has the highest upside. Yes, he's going to have to get the consistency stuff down, especially with his mechanics inside the pocket. He's a big kid. He can move well. Obviously, he has the traits that the pro scouts are just drooling over. But just because of his environment, the upside, I really do think he's going to, I wouldn't say replicate last year, but definitely have one of the better seasons within the conference, because this is where we get a lot of subjectivity. We have some quality returners within this conference, but no one who necessarily excites people at the next level. You know, Jaden Daniels is a name that a lot of people are going to have at quarterback 1. Well, he's still a guy that who is his best self, just attacking underneath, not really pressing the ball downfield and scrambling to space. That's not really a difference maker. That is, in my opinion, the definition of an offensive executive. He's just going out there and executing the offense. And, of course, when Garrett Nussmeier got in there, oh, my gosh, the kid popped. So, like, you can see some of Brian Kelly's comments last year where he's just like, gosh dang, I just wish our quarterback would be a little bit more aggressive and throw the ball downfield. And he was actually giving him some roses yesterday based on how he played in the SEC championship game and the bowl game, where he tended to test those tight windows a little bit more. But when we're looking across the SEC, he's bang average at attacking those. And, of course, he has a bottom 5 average depth of target, and only the air raid had a lower explosive pass rate than LSU. Not good.
I'm glad you went there, because that's what they're getting.
We just got Milton and Daniel. So what is your top?
Oh my gosh! Yeah, I got.
Let me get while he's going though. Real quick. That's because that's what I understand about Kevin Barbay, because SEC fans don't know who that, former Appalachian State offensive coordinator, obviously New Mississippi State. That's critical because Mike Leach is no longer there, rest in peace. But that's his specialty, is explosive plays. You think that translates to Will Rogers' game this fall?
I don't think it's the best fit, but I do think the schematic elements are going to try and bring about that verticality. Of course, we saw it in the spring game. It was mentioned a decent amount. He actually threw a pass beyond 40 yards downfield. Oh, my gosh. He's only done that like a half dozen times in 3 years, and, of course, he gets one right on tape immediately. But he's yet to complete one of those ever in college. That kind of matters. Yeah, I mean, basically for fans who are somewhat aware of what's going on around the rest of the conference, they're going to try and run what Missouri has been running. It's what I call the spread-a-hand offense, not the, Shanahan offense. It's the spread-a-hand, because we still get some orbit motions and some fun razzle-dazzle type of stuff, but it's still orchestrated off that wide zone type of action. Eye candy to manipulate the defense who might be in too deep, to reallocate resources to the box. And once their eyes are towards the line of scrimmage, that's when you're throwing over their heads with Yankee shots or other types of deep pass patterns off of deception tactics. So I do think Will Rogers has the potential to crack the top 5. But at this point in time, I can't overlook the check down Charlie aspect, Mike. I'm always the quickest to bring up the fact that there have only been 4 instances the last half decade of a quarterback having a double-digit check down rate. Will Rogers has 3 of them. The only other guy to have such instance under my watch was Mac Jones, of course, who was also kind of criticized as just being a caretaker within that scheme during a COVID season. So even though, yes, he has a lot of counting stats, it's just the fact that he just relies so much on the dink and dunk, being a point guard distributor. It's not the sexiest type of game, and I've let other people to bypass him. So after Milton, it then comes into Leary, who we mentioned, the snappy actually gets the ball out quick, attacking tight windows, mid-range. He's a guy you can count on. Sure, he was not the sharpest last year, no doubt about it, but still those things consistently did show up, even though everything else kind of soured. So that's a pretty nice sales pitch. Then third, that's when we get into our, experienced, our established guys with Jaden Daniels, of course, I just mentioned, who likes to focus short. He's a West Coast type of operator, scramble to space, and he takes a lot of sacks. That's not so good. I mean, we want to talk about Will Levis taking sacks last year and throwing interceptable passes. Well, adjusted net passing yards per attempt, takes all of that into account, and Jaden Daniels still had a worse clip than Will Levis last year.
Now, was that for his career taking sacks, or is that at LSU last year with 2 true freshman offensive tackles?
When he was at Arizona State, I don't think he was as prone to it, but his numbers were still not, I would say, adequate. So this is what I'm looking at, pressure to sack ratio. How often does the pressure result in a sack? Anything above 30 is in the danger zone. Against his hardest opponents, it was near 60%.
Yeah. But isn't that skewed a little bit just because he likes to run?
Yes, I mean, he likes to run just to space, but
Right.
he cannot erase. And, of course, that's a major trait people looking at the next level. I mean, that's why Will Levis's size was so appealing just because, like, you think, oh, he's durable. He can just run through those big defensive linemen and keep plays alive, even though he didn't really have the best track record at that at UK. People like to dream. But Jaden Daniels, even though he is a 6'3" guy, he is slight. He's only like 200 pounds. His run tackle or his breaking tackle ability in the run game is definitely way more effective on design keeps. So zone read, guy keeps, he's got a full head of steam, and the safety's going to have to come down to make a play, making that guy miss as opposed to a normal box player just because of his physicality. But still, very efficient, high floor, even though the ceiling might not be that great. You know what you're going to get. He's safe. He doesn't turn the ball over, doesn't throw it into harm's way too much. And still, when they're trying to, I would say, optimize his style of play, one of the big emphasis from LSU this spring was getting better at yards after the catch, which, of course, would make sense. Well, it's also very astute to see that they had the second lowest YAC average within the SEC last year. So it's a very clear area of opportunity, and I think a very nice step for that offense. Then after him,
you haven't even mentioned KJ. I'm going to have John Neighbors punch you in the head right here.
I was about to say, your boy KJ Jefferson, who is the only player returning within this conference who's top 3 in both passing first down touchdown rate and rushing first down touchdown rate. Now, talk about a true dual threat guy. Now, you like to bring up the Mike Leach quote, you don't want to recruit inaccurate quarterbacks. Well, you're going to hate what I'm going to have to say. Even though his catchability is fantastic, so even though it might not be accurate perfectly in stride, it's still in a guy's catch radius. Very catchable ball. But in terms of premier accuracy against his hardest opponent, so one of my duties this offseason for On3 was charting some of the best returning quarterbacks and determining the most impactful. Of the top 30, he had the worst depth-adjusted accuracy. So that is weighted accuracy. The further the pass travels beyond the line of scrimmage, it's more risk-reward as opposed to just the static yes, no, is it accurate or not. So that's awfully concerning. Even though he does give his guys a decent amount of opportunities to make the play, he's just kind of scatterbrained. Of course, that's been, or a scatter shot, I should say, which has obviously had a lot of people, including me, a little reserved in what he could do at the next level. Right now, obviously, like I mentioned, very efficient, getting results. This is result business. I think he's absolutely going to be a major catalyst. But it's also interesting, in my opinion, that Arkansas had the highest run rate within the conference on early downs, even with him in the fold. So they did bring in some pass catchers in the transfer portal. Some guys I really like, Andrew Armstrong. He's going to be a big
dominated lower level.
Yes, that's the concern. Will that translate? I think it does moderately. I don't think he's going to be an all-SEC type of player, but I do think he could be potentially an undrafted free agent type of talent at the next level, potentially be the Treylon Burks role where you can use him in spacing stuff underneath with motions. Of course, Dan Enos coming from Maryland. One of the things that, like, big carryover are those tight end flats and slide routes. Yeah. So if you're using him in those roles, in addition to those one-on-one shot plays, which they're usually orchestrated that way, they're not RPOs, I think he can be absolutely effective. It's just KJ's down-to-down accuracy. I'm just a little bit hesitant to say he's going to be one of the better ones in the conference.
So why do you think so many people, and I mean, I guess they're just idiots, but they think KJ is not a good quarterback? You're not. No. I mean, what the hell are they seeing?
He's smarter than you think. And I don't say that lightly. Like, when you hear him talk, he knows what he's talking about. And it's delivered in a way so matter-of-fact where, it's just second nature talking about this. So, yes, the big knock playing in the Brile system, it's a quarterback-friendly scheme, a lot of screens, RPOs, and play actions, really scheming opens. Well, again, when you're looking at passing floor, when you're getting all that stuff away from someone's profile and you're just trying to see how they operate within structure, adjusted net passing yards per attempt was the highest returning in the conference. So he absolutely can get it done. And I think just because there's going to be a decent amount of continuity and where he can take that next level running a more pro-style scheme, sure, there's going to be RPO. And it's college. There's going to be some schemey stuff, but there's going to be more translatable concepts towards the next level in this offense, in my opinion.
You ever seen The Hangover? And
Who has?
he's coming down, and he's got all them graphs going over. That's my brain trying to keep up with this conversation. I feel like I'm with Rain Man over here. Hey, I want to ask you, since you're dialed in, brother. South Carolina, this offense got a new coordinator.
Yeah.
What do you? For those that may not know, what is this login style you think is going to look like there in South Carolina?
It's anyone's guess because, yes, he's coming from Arkansas, the Kendall Briles stuff, but he has such a pedigree working in the pros. It's just how much carryovers are going to be. In my opinion, I think a lot of the same concepts are going to remain, particularly on the ground. It has not really been a major secret that Beamer wants to be physical, he wants to play bully ball, and there is no surprise that their top two run concepts are duo dive, man, double team play at the point of attack, and counter. The classic hard-nosed misdirection play. So that speaks volumes. I still think that's going to maintain, but of course, like we saw.
Do they got the line to keep running it?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
That's
the running backs, I mean.
Dead last year in rush yard before contact. And 3 years ago, they were also bottom 5. Oh, no, it was last year. Yeah, I remember. So last 2 years, bottom 5 in rush yards before contact, and defensively in SEC play, only Vanderbilt has a worse defensive success rate. So it's amazing. He has a 15-11 record, my friends. Amazing. But to get the best out of Spencer Rattler with the new scheme, you just have to optimize his style of play. Sure, he kind of flirted with check down Charlie territory last year. Well, I think
we blame that on Satterfield.
Yeah,
that's what everyone does.
I want to say only Will Rogers had a lower average depth of target, and even though we did see the explosiveness from Rattler, it's just what type of guy are we going to get? Are we going to get a guy who's just reckless YOLO ball or a guy who's more prudent? We saw this with Bo Nix last year. Of course, playing against 8 defenses that finished in the triple digits and expected points added per pass will do wonders for anyone's passing bottom line, and I don't think Rattler's going to have that, but still, we saw those toolsy guys who might have had a little bit of red flags on their resume. That extra year, that COVID year, there's immense value there for Rattler in this game, considering the wide receivers.
Why the change, though? I mean, again, it felt like confidence at times during the season last year, and then all of a sudden it clicked. Is that what you think it was? Or
well, I have heard stories, and again, these are rumors. I don't want to put too much weight behind them, but it explains a lot if they are true. So I've heard from multiple people, like late in the week, they're like ripping up their game plan, and they're trying to install new stuff. That's really hard to do in college. I mean, hey, man, I got a Finex exam on Wednesday, and I planned how to play against Tennessee one way. Well, bad example. I learned how to play against Missouri one way, and then you're telling me I have to completely with very limited practice reps, mind you, until Saturday. So you look at that Florida game, that was one of the most dysfunctional things I had ever seen in my life. We had 2 linemen pull and hit each other. That was just incredible. Incredible. So I think
that's
just
a clip.
So I just think getting more week-to-week continuity, talking about like ripping up the game plans and unique plays. And what do I mean by unique plays? This play was run one time, and that's it. I don't care about like what formation it came out of. I'm talking just true concepts. Only a third of their plays were repeats.
Last thing for you, Clark. Really appreciate your time. We were joking earlier about the All-SEC ballot that'll be coming out. Friday they'll announce the teams. A player or two that the numbers say should be All-SEC that has little to no chance of being on that final list. It's easy to go through the guys that are no-brainers that'll be on the list, but does anybody stand out to you that really should be getting more recognition, at least in the preseason, that is probably getting no to little love?
I love Dwight McLaughlin at Arkansas. He is a big corner. He's been one of the best guys each of the last 2 years in ball hawk rate. So on a per-target basis, how often are you disrupting that pass, either with an interception or a breakup or whatever. He's been consistently good about that, and that is a very impactful position. Of course, when you're playing with a lot of guys in the back end like Arkansas likes to do, of course, Barry Odom's not there anymore. We have to keep an eye on how that the aggressiveness of the defense adjusts, because they've been more passive. Come to us and we'll rally. So that puts a lot more pressure on the guys in the back end to make those plays in those situations. So right now he is cornerback 5, I think, in our impact ratings within the conference. But he's a guy who I just keep looking at him like he needs to be talked up a lot more, because guys like Rakestraw, Abrams Brains, Marcus Dial, Jason Marshall, a lot of people have their favorite corner, but not a lot of people are talking about Dwight McLaughlin, and I think he's certainly in the conversation for being a day 1, if not a day 2 pick if everything clicks this year.
Yeah.
All right, Clark, before you go, can you tell the audience where to find all your work?
Hi, audience. I'm Clark Brooks. You can find me at SEC_StatCat on Twitter. You can also visit my awesome website, SECStatCat.com, where you can see past charts, concept breakdowns, one-on-one videos. If you're not necessarily sure what a stick concept is, you can watch a 2-minute video and download that right into your brain and become a little bit more informed. Of course, you can see tables that you can chart, filters where you can do things down by the route, by the down, by what field, where you are in the field. A whole lot of resources and a treasure trove for casual fans and degenerates alike. So be sure to check that out. And of course, the parent company, On3.com. We're growing fast, and we are just completely passionate, trying to provide all the best coverage we can around the SEC and across all of college football.
I appreciate you, Clark. Thank you.
Appreciate you all.
What day of the week was July 12th, 1982?
A Tuesday?
No, I don't know.
I don't know either.